Okay, let's talk about something we've all done, self-sabotage. It's one of the most frustrating things, right? Well, today, we're not just going to talk about it, we're going to build a practical toolkit to actually break that cycle. And the method is all about becoming a detective of your own mind.
I mean, seriously, who hasn't? You've got a huge deadline, and all of a sudden, alphabetizing your spice rack feels like the most important job in the world. Or maybe you keep putting off that tough conversation you know you need to have, just letting it get worse and worse. These are those classic moves that make you stop and think, why on earth did I just do that?
And here's the big reveal from our source material. The problem, it's not actually the deadline, and it's not the conversation. The real problem is the story. That little thought that zipped through your brain right before you decided to procrastinate. That thought? That's the culprit we're going to put under the microscope today.
So our first stop is this really crucial idea, learning to see our thoughts as just thoughts, not as cold, hard facts. In the moment, they feel incredibly real, I know, but often they're just theories that we can and absolutely should put to the test.
So what exactly is an irrational thought? Well, think of it like that little storyteller in your head who's running on autopilot. It's the voice that can take one tiny piece of information, like, say, a weird look from your coworker, and spin this whole epic drama out of it, all while totally ignoring any evidence that doesn't fit the narrative. So how do we deal with this? The answer is pretty cool. We don't fight back, we investigate. It's time to put on your detective hat and treat your own mind like a scene you need to analyze, piece by piece. And what's the very first thing any good detective does? They identify their main suspect. In our case, that's the thought itself.
And here is a perfect example of what we're looking for. A thought like this feels so heavy, so final, doesn't it? It feels less like a thought and more like a prediction of certain doom. This is exactly the kind of raw evidence we need to capture to get our investigation started.
Now here's the trick. You have to catch these thoughts in the act. The second you feel that pull to do something you know is against your best interests, just pause and ask yourself, okay, what story am I telling myself right now? Then, and this is key, write it down, exactly as it sounds in your head, word for word, no filters. If you can't write it down, no worries. Just send yourself a quick voice memo or create a mental picture to remember it later.
All right, so you've captured your thought suspect. Now what? Well, you can't just let it sit there. You've got to interrogate it. This is where the real detective work kicks in. It's time to take that thought from the page and put it on the witness stand.
You know, in every good detective show or legal drama, they always have a core set of questions they use to get to the truth, right? Well, it turns out there's a super simple 3-question framework you can use to cross-examine your own catastrophic thinking.
And here they are. First, you're going to play devil's advocate for that negative thought. Come on, what's the actual evidence that supports it? Then, you flip the script and become its prosecutor. What's all the evidence that totally contradicts it? And finally, you step back and act like the judge, looking at both sides of the argument to come up with a more realistic, more balanced verdict.
Okay, let's see how this plays out in the real world. Your catastrophic thought is, my boss thinks I'm incompetent. The only evidence for it, one single curt response in the hallway. But the evidence against it, well, your boss just gave you the lead on a major new project. So the balanced view isn't some fake positive thing like, my boss secretly loves me. It's a neutral, actionable observation. They seem distracted. And just like that, the thought loses all of its power.
And this is so important to remember. The whole point of this is to be a better realist. We're not trying to force ourselves to think happy thoughts or just chant positive affirmations. We're trying to get a clearer, more accurate picture of what's really going on. One that's based on all the evidence, not just the scary stuff.
Okay, so you've put your thought on trial, and you've come up with a more balanced interpretation. What's next? Well, now you take that new theory out of the courtroom and into the lab of the real world. It's time to run a little experiment.
So, a behavioral experiment is just a small, totally safe action you take to test out your fears. You're not trying to prove anything. You're just being a scientist, collecting data. Is your big, scary prediction that you're going to fail or be rejected actually true? Well, there's only one way to find out. So your catastrophic prediction is telling you, if I speak up in this meeting, I'm going to get shot down in flames. But when you actually run the experiment, what does the data show? More often than not, the outcome is, honestly, kind of boring. It's not rejection, it's just a normal human interaction. And that real-world data is what really starts to rewire your brain.
All right, we've gone through the theory and the techniques. Now it's time to get our hands dirty and make this stuff practical.
The source material lays out a really clear challenge to put all of this into action, starting today and for the next week.
It all boils down to two very specific, very doable things you can focus on for the next 7 days to start building this as a new habit.
Okay, first, start a thought capture note on your phone or in a journal. For 7 days, your mission is to catch just one negative thought per day and run it through the process. The thought, the evidence, and the action you'll take. Second, you're going to run just one behavioral experiment. Pick a safe, low-stakes situation where you'd normally back down and instead act on your new, balanced view. Then just see what happens.
And here's one final piece of advice. Please be patient with yourself. You are literally overriding years of mental habits. So when an old negative thought pops up again, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as another chance to collect data, another rep in the mental gym. Every single time you notice it and challenge it, you're weakening its hold on you.
So, as we wrap this up, the real question isn't for me, it's for you. The real work starts right now with that very first investigation. What's the one story you've been telling yourself that might not be the whole truth? Which irrational thought are you going to put on trial first?